Hello everyone, welcome back. Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and as you can tell from the title, this is the Pocher Porsche 917 brand new kit, just released about a week ago, in fact not even a week ago. And here we go. So I've done part one where I did a bit of introduction about stuff and I showed you how all this is going to look if you put it together out of the box, and honestly it just looks bloody great. So what I'm doing now is a change to the assembly sequence Nigel style. Okay, now as you've already seen from part one, if you've seen it, if you haven't, go and have a look. I'll put a link down below if I think of it. But everything screws together. So we've got these two transmission cases, halves that screw together with these little screws. There we go, there's our two little screws. I tap the threads, and as you can see they go together. But when they go together, you can see that we have some interference which is giving us a gap underneath. So if I hold it in the light there, you can see my hand behind, we've got a gap. Okay, so we want to get rid of that gap. So what we need to do is sand these down and find out where it's being held away. Now it could be that it's being held apart. If we do this, we may scratch it. It could be that it's being held apart here. Okay, where we've got the edge of these holes, we've got that rib there. So possibly the best way to get around that would be to get a fairly coarse old sanding stick. Where's a coarse old sanding stick? I don't want to use a new one. We'll use this. So yeah, that's it. So I'm going to remove some. In fact, it'd be better off with a file. Should have been better prepared, shouldn't I? Better off with a file. So I'm going to file some material away from here, just to see if that improves things. And we'll also file some from here. This is inside the transmission, guys, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and that doesn't seem to have improved anything. Now we seem to have a contact area here. Okay, so something is stopping it going over. As you can see, these two faces here are kind of like that, and we want them to be flat together. So I think the best thing to do is to grab a coarse sanding stick, a fairly large one. And I really don't know what I've done with my large coarse sanding stick. Let me come back in a second. Okay, within a second of turning the camera off, I found it. So basically I've got a large coarse sanding stick here and it's fairly hard. You may be wondering, I'm just going to push all this to one side. You may be wondering why I'm not just doing this on the bench. The trouble is with doing that, if you've got a piece of emery on the bench, you do that, it tends to pull the edges up as you turn it. So it's better to use a sanding stick and just not put any pressure on. And what we're looking for is where we've got high spots that are going to prevent it going together nicely. Now we can see we've got a high spot there. We've got a high spot there and there as we saw. So I'm just going to keep sanding. And as you can see, it's showing us areas where it could be being held apart. Now it looks like here we've got those are high. That's because they're going into there, so that's fine. So what we'll have to do is sand around them. And it looks like on here there's nothing which is obviously high. So let's have a quick look. The only trouble with this, guys, it does make a mess of your bench. So you might want to get if you've got a nice paper bench like I have here, you might want to get yourself down an old modelling block board or something. So we can see here straight away now that we've improved things already. You can see now when I put some pressure on there, the gap underneath is much smaller. You can't even see it now, can you? So that's much better, and I can see that we're contacting there. So what I'm going to do is continue to sand here. It looks like we've got a high spot there and there, look. And I think that's what's been preventing it going together. So remember, guys, I'm gonna say this a million times in these videos. You don't have to do this. This is just, I'm just doing this because I want to. Okay, I'm a scale modeler. My channel is all about scale modelling, generally plastic kits, and I'm just applying the techniques and stuff we use in scale modelling to this. And this, yes, this is a scale model. It's a beautiful scale model. It's 1/8 scale, and if you want to, you can get one of these and you could make it into a year-long project by adding all the detail, all the wiring, and you could add a boatload of detail. I've actually found a YouTube channel, and it is called Team Gunnar. Team, as in team, Gunnar, not ER, Gunnar, one word. And they have actually got a restoration on their channel of a Porsche 917. They have a lot of restorations actually about Porsches, and it's going to be great for details like hosing, colours, stuff like that. Be very careful because they're doing restoration, and the restoration they're doing on Porsche 917021, the white car. It would appear from the work they're doing on removing paint and stuff, it looks like it's had about 1 million different owners that have changed things around 1 million different times. So look at all that coming off there. That is just designed to mess your workbench up. So there we go. And I think now we've got a much nicer fit. We still have a slight gap, but I'm concerned about sanding too much because I don't want to make the whole thing too narrow. Now when we put the top in, that's also going to stop us doing it up too tight around the bottom. So basically, now if you remember, when we did, just wipe this thick off on an old pair of jeans. Look at the mess we made already. When we did part one, I showed you about cutting this in half and pinning it so we could slot these in afterwards, and that will enable me to build the transmission in one piece. Okay, so we can have the transmission as it would be on the real car with the back attached, and then we can do all the painting, weathering, paint the bolts, whatever we want to do. The trouble with that is we need to have these screws going from the inside to hold the axle shafts in. So I said what I would probably do is make an axle. So I've actually got this piece of 2mm steel rod, and I've cut an M2 thread on the end of there with a die, and I drilled a bit deeper into this one because remember I put the bigger thread in that one, so I've drilled a bit deeper. So we've got an M2 thread on that one, and what I've done using Tamiya liquid thread lock, this stuff here, okay, I have thread locked that in. So now when we put these two together, okay, if you can imagine they're screwed together, I'm going to put that shaft in there, okay, and I'm going to screw this shaft on. So that'll run down that shaft, and then when I finally fit it, when everything's all painted and everything, I will put some Loctite on there, and then I can set it so that they both turn like so. Okay, so that is, I think, far better than having those screws inside holding them. So if you want to do that, if you've got one of these cheap tap and die sets like this one I got from Amazon, that's got the M2 die in it. I just need some 2mm brass rod or steel rod or whatever. I had some brass rod, but it turned out it was tubing and it snapped off too easy. I thought if I knock that, it's going to snap off. So I thought it better to use the steel. But basically, yeah, when I come to do it, I'll thread lock it in and then it won't unscrew. So that enables us to actually build the gearbox as per the real car. So we can have the gearbox all assembled, all glued together, all seam sealed, painted, everything done, and then assemble the rest. Because now, because we've done this, we can slide that into there. We can slide that one into there over the brass rod, he says. Of course, nothing's screwed together, so it's all a bit... There we go. We can slide that over there, glue that in, job done. And it'll be just like the original model was, but just assembled in a slightly different way. So that's what these videos are about, is how I go about modifying it and painting it and stuff like that. So hopefully you will enjoy. Right, I'm going to sand a little bit more off of there because I can see we've got contact here. You can see on that corner now we've got the corner starting to get into contact. There we are. Perhaps a bit more off of there. It's the beauty of it being painted, we can see where we're sanding. And there we are, so that's that done. Okay. So that's all good. So what I'm going to do now is come along with it, get a screw, stick a screw in there, just nip that one up, get that one in there, just nip that one up, so that's held together now. So what we can do, we can get some of our VMS. This is not the thin, this is the black thick. Alright, and what I'm going to do is just run some, in fact I'm not going to use the tube, that is not a good idea. I'm going to put some on here, on my Pringles lid. And then what I can do is just run this on the inside, just like so. And that'll fill any gaps or anything. You can use any old super glue for this, but I like to use the black because not only is it black, you can see where it's going, but also it's called VMS Flexi 5K, so it's quite flexible. It doesn't just crack as soon as you look at it. I hadn't realised that web's in the way there, so I'm going to get some, and basically capillary action will take that down in there. Get some into there as well. Gonna need some more, I think. As you can see now, we've got that going in. As long as you don't touch it, it'll just capillary into there and it'll form a lovely little seal, just like it was meant to be there. If you want to, then we can do the seam there and from the outside afterwards. So I'm going to decant some more into here. In fact, I'm going to decant some down in there. And just spread it about. Because it's on the inside, it doesn't matter if you make a mess. Sorry guys, you probably can't see what I'm doing because of all the dark colours, but I'm sure you get the gist. In fact, that flange there doesn't really matter because it's not visible. That's going to be up against the engine there, isn't it? There we go. We'll just get some down the bottom there and let it capillary in. Easier said than done. I think what I'm going to do is hold the bottle and let it drip. Go on, drip off. Doesn't want to drip, it doesn't want to let go of the bottle, but just wants to run down the faces. So there we go. So there you go, you get the idea of that. And I'm just going to carry on, get that filled and just let it dry. But before it dries, get it all the way around, make sure it's gone all the way in. We filled all the gaps, we can't see any, I'm holding it up to the light, I can't see any gaps through it. So what I'm going to do is fit this top. Yeah, and we can see I can't push that down, so I'm going to slightly loosen that screw. And then I can push that down and close that screw up. So what we need to do is loosen that screw. Remove the top. And we can see the contact areas. So I'm going to put that like that. I'm just going to just make sure we don't have any rough raised edges or anything. Again, using the coarse stick. We've got a, I'm going to use a finer stick here. This is a 400 grit. Just to remove that little ridge around there. Just check there's no little high spots anywhere there. Got the mountings and everything. That's all good. That's part of the casting as well. You see them take that out in the Gunnar video. Okay, so that's going to go on there lovely. So what we're going to do is, I'm a bit concerned. We're gluing that on, and that's all that's going to support it is the glue. So there's nothing to actually hold that down. I guess the engine. The engine has 4 mounts in real life. I learned that from that video. I'm going to become an expert on the Porsche 917 in the next few weeks, guys. Joking. I'm going to sand that down to get back to bare metal. Let's get my coarser stick on it. Let's just show I mean business. And then I'm going to get that stick in there. So we get metal to metal contact. and then back here. Okay, that rear cover is going to hold this together because of those pins. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put a drop of super glue in each of these 4 slots so that it goes down in. There we go. And then I can drop this down. I'm going to put some on there as well. Put some on there. Turn that back up. And then drop this down in. So it goes in properly. It does literally just drop down, doesn't it? Because I'm a bit... Okay, there's a gap there, but there's no gap there, so that's alright. Right, I'm going to lift that off. I'm going to put a drop here. Drop down there and a drop down there. I'm just trying to get it so that it sort of stays in place, doesn't all just want to just fall away. I'm going to grab a cocktail stick. This is one I use these cocktail sticks to judge the length the axle shafts needed to be. Let's get a cotton bud, mop up that excess in that corner. Okay, so now we can take our screwdriver, tighten that screw, tighten that screw. Everything's hunky-dory and our gaps are sealed, and that can just dry like that. You can see we've got a bit of excess oozing out there. I'm just going to get rid of that with a cotton bud. Got a little bit there. And there we are, there's our transmission together, and then the end it's going to fit on like that. Okay, so that's lovely. So what we can do is get our coarse sanding stick and just rub over there. Make sure that's all nice and flat. Then we can go across here. Go up there, up there. Just like that, and then we're going to go into there, and you can see that everything's fitting together nice and lovely. So what we can do, looking at this, it looks like, yeah, we can put the glue on here because it looks like everywhere is covered. Don't be scared to use too much, it'll ooze out. You can mop it up with a cotton bud. In fact, I'm going to put some on those pins as well, because the only thing holding this rear cover on is glue, and I've got a feeling the exhausts are going to hang off of this. So we need to make sure it's nice and securely fitted in place. Okay, and then there you can see we've got excess glue coming out there. So we just grab a cotton bud and just mop it up. Simple as that. That's the beauty, because it doesn't just dry straight away, you get plenty of time to play with it. If you do get any area you didn't want it, you can just mop it up with a cotton bud. It's the best super glue on the planet, I reckon, in my opinion. There you go, we can leave that for a couple of hours to dry, and then we can start to look at curing the seams here, seam there. Look, we'll get rid of that one. That's definitely not supposed to be there. Just put that there, let that dry, put some on there as well so it seals it up. And there we are. So that's our transmission together. The other thing we're going to look at now is plugging that hole. So that diameter there, let's not put it down on that super glue. The diameter of that hole there is 4.2. So we need about a 4mm plastic rod to shove in there and fill that hole up. Okay, so Pocher supply that piece of sprue for us. So if you go to your bag and get sprue F1 or F and F1, it's in the bag of marked F, and we can just take a piece of this sprue, and it's 4mm everywhere, so you can take it wherever you want. We may as well take it from over here because this area is redundant. So it's 3.96 there. So I'm going to cut there, and I'm going to cut there. So there's our piece of 4mm diameter sprue. Now, to make it easier to get back in the bag, I'm just going to get rid of that there. That can go in the recycling or in the bin, whatever. My recycling here doesn't take styrene. I don't know why. So that was sprue F. I'm sure there's others in there as well. And as you can see, I will be careful not to touch all this super glue, which I've just done. And that will go into that hole nicely. Alright, so what we're going to do is see how deep that hole is. And I'm going to take my knife, wherever it may be, make a mark. Okay, so now I can see that that's where I need to cut it off. Just like so. Take a sanding stick. This is lovely plastic they've used in this kit. I don't know what it is, but it really cuts beautifully. It sands beautifully. It leaves no marks. If you remember, I mentioned in part 1, I got rid of a sprue gate and it left no mark whatsoever. And that is extremely unusual. Now you can see where this goes, there's a rib in the middle. Alright, so what I'm going to try and do, try and be real clever here, I'm going to try and replicate that rib. So I'm going to get a knife there and a knife there. Alright, and we'll try and replicate that rib. Or what we could do is go in deeper and just stick a piece of plastic to the top of it to make it like a rib. Not that it really matters because it's not really going to notice, but we're building a model, we're having a bit of fun. So I'm going to grab a cutting mat so I don't mess up my board any more than I have to. And what I'm going to do is cut. Would have been better doing this on a longer piece of sprue. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of sprue there and try and get it at least remotely square. Well done, Nige. Oh, unfortunately this has a hole in it. Okay, so we'll have to go back to the piece I was originally using. So what I'm going to do is grab a saw. This is my old wooden saw. So we'll use the fine side, and I'm just going to cut into there. And then do the same here, cut into there. Just to leave a rib in the middle. And then what we can do is cut across. Just like that. There we go, remove that. And there we are, we've got that raised ridge in the middle now. And it's a right mess, so I need to sort it out. So I'm going to file it down so it's square, because I haven't even got it square. Okay, this is a load of fuss over nothing, to be honest. And then file this side down. I really have cut that on an angle, haven't I? Dodo. I mean, it's hardly going to notice anyway with its position, but like I say, it's modelling. It's all about having a bit of fun, and that's what we're doing, isn't it? At the end of the day, we're having a bit of fun. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to put that into there, and as you can see, we've got that raised ridge in the middle that lines up with the original ridge that's there. So I can take that out, I can put some super glue on it. Grab in our tweezers again, get super glue over our hands, drop it again, which is great, what a nudge, and then try to pick it up again. Oh dear, dear, I've got it all over my cutters. And then that can go into there. Oh, come on, like so. Turn it around. Oh, come on. It's starting to glue it already. Come on, get out. You swine. Normally this glue takes forever to dry. That there, look, is still really, really wet. But this in here, because I've taken the air away from it, and it's gone in too deep. Oh, what a swine. Right, we got there in the end. So we got that piece. It's a new piece, and I've just touched that bloody glue on there again. You can see all the blue marks, and black marks on my fingers. I keep touching. So yeah, we got that in the end. Got that in there. So we'll wait for that to dry, and then we can dress that up a bit if we want to. I've got glue around the bottom there to fill that seam there. I'm going to have to put some more on because I've just touched it again because I'm a moron. So more on for the moron. Okay, put that over there and just leave it alone and don't touch it again, you plank. Look at me, I'm covered in it. So right, that's that done. Okay, so now looking at these parts here, this is G6, L9 and L10. And as you can see, they tell you to glue them together, but we're left with a seam down the edge. And I don't want to see that seam. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue them together. And then I'm going to wait for the glue to dry. Then I'm going to fill the seams. And then we're going to sand them smooth and repaint them. Now these were made of fiberglass, not Kevlar as I thought. I thought Kevlar was what they used, but apparently back in '71 Kevlar wasn't around, or certainly wasn't in use on race cars. It may have been around in aerospace, which is where most race car stuff comes from. So the first thing to do, I'm going to take a fairly smoothish sanding stick. This is a 600 grit, and I'm going to remove the paint around here. Now I'm not sure. This is black plastic, so we're just going to keep sanding until we see. In fact, we're going to be better to scrape it, I think, until we see the black plastic showing through, because we don't want to be sticking paint to paint when it comes to seam filling, right? And we don't want to be taking too much off either. We can see this is a really good thick coat of paint. It is very nicely done. It's a shame really, it's so nice, but if you're not worried about seams and stuff and having little seams when you open and look at your engine, then don't worry about it. Just build it out of the box and do as they tell you. Don't worry about it. I'm just a fussy old fart. There we go. That's what I'm going to call myself, fussy old fart. Alright, so we'll go around there, we'll go around there, and we'll make sure that we have no paint where we want to have seam filling, because often what happens, you use glue on paint and it just cracks. So on here you can see we've got an edge. We've got to get in here into that corner, get our knife on the right angle, there we go, just like that. Get the angle right and get in like so. And there we are. Just take all that paint out of there. So I'm going to carry on, go around, do all this. You don't want to watch me do this. And then once we're done, I'll come back. Alright, so I've tested this plastic already. I can't remember, I did it there. You can see I've tested it already. I've seen that extra thin works. So the extra thin will dissolve the paint, and it will also glue the plastic. So we can plonk that into there, like so. Okay, now we can see in there, so we can put a drop more in there. And you can see where all the edges are. So now we can run some extra thin into those seams, and that will weld these parts together, because I know that this plastic reacts to extra thin. if you didn't see it, I've done a video recently about testing all different glues and discovered that not all plastics are the same. That's why it's worth testing, just to make sure. And we should find now that if we give this a few seconds, plenty of cement in there, put some more on this side, we should find that when we pull it apart, it all strings, and to show that all the styrene is all melted into each other. Because basically what you're doing, you're welding it, it's not gluing it, like gluing two pieces of paper together. It's a chemical reaction between the glue and the plastic. It's melding it together, welding it and melting it at the same time, melding. Alright, so grab a couple of close pegs, one on there, one in the middle, and then one on the end, and that will help it all stay together. We'll put some down on the inside there as well, and then we'll leave that for a good, I don't know, 8 hours, whatever, to dry. And then we'll come up, we'll probably do that beforehand, come in some super glue around there in the seam, just fill it. You might be wondering, why don't I just use super glue? I don't like using super glue for joints because it tends to, unless of course it's resin where you have to, it has a propensity to crack. So I don't like using it if I don't have to. So we'll put some extra thin in there. I know this dissolves the paint, because I can see the yellow paint coming off on my brush. And I'll show you something now. I'll push these together just like so. There we go. So the pins go in the holes, right, just like that. And you can see that the glue is attacking the paint because we can see the black plastic coming through. So there we go. I love the way they've done all this pre-painting on the parts. It's really nice, and it's really great for the modeler that doesn't want to bother painting his model. So we'll get some extra thin on here, let that capillary into that joint, plenty in there, let it ooze around. You can see all the black coming out there, that's cool. Means we got a good weld going on there. There we go. And there we are. Once again, we'll get some pegs on there. Get off. Just managed to pick up the sprue at the same time that I just put down. Get some pegs on there. There's another one here. Clamp that together there. And then we'll get another one, if I can find another one. Hundreds of these, and they're all at the back of the drawer. There we go. So we're going to make sure that's all nicely lined up there, and it is. And then I'm going to go and scrub my hands and try and get rid of all this bloody super glue I've got everywhere. Right, back in a bit. We're back, ready to finish, I think. So you can see there we've got that bung in there. I've just chucked some Mr. Surface on it just to see how it looks, and that's fine. That's going to be fine under a coat of paint. I'm going to spray the, here we have LP61, and I think this is going to be very good to show this sort of magnesium sort of colour. It's called metallic grey. We'll try it out. I'll let you know how we get on. But first of all, I'm going to have to etch prime all this bare metal and everything. Obviously, as you know, we've got this made up, so that's going to go in there. I think I've already showed you this. This is the next day now, so I don't remember what I've shown you. But there's our gear linkage. That's going to go in. I've got to check the colours on all this. This is probably also cast magnesium, maybe aluminium. So we'll have to paint that maybe a different shade just to add a bit of interest. And all this is probably painted gloss black or it'll be aluminium, bare aluminium, I'm not sure. This car was certainly made with lightness in mind. Starter motor, I think we'll have the black around the middle and then aluminium on the ends. But again, I'll see if I can find some reference and check. We've got the actual shafts here, the output shafts, got rid of the mould seams on them. So obviously they're going to need etch priming as well. There's the other one there. There's only one mould seam on there, funnily enough. Although no, there is a slight one there. I can just see it where I've sanded over it. So we'll get a bit more to get rid of that one. I hate mould seams. I really hate mould seams and ejector pin marks. They're my pet hate with modelling, because whenever you use washes or any weathering, they stick out like a sore thumb. So there we go. So that's our output shaft done. And then the actual cooling ducts, as you can see, we've gone over, we've filled all the seams, and I've just given it, you can see the primer is still wet, I've literally just given it a quick blast, just to a sort of seam check, and you can see here on the end, there's a little lump. I need to file that out or get in there with a knife and just cut that away so we get a nice square seam-free corner. I need to get some more filler on the inside edge there so we get a nice circle. There was quite a hefty lip on the inside of one half, so I've gone in and ground that out. And also you can see inside we've got rid of the seams as well. This one here, this is why it's always worth putting a coat of primer on. You can see here where I've missed sanding on that top edge. You can see there's a bit of an edge there, but the circle on the top is nice, so I may actually put some more filler around there. They're a little bit misshapen, but they would have been in real life. But if you want your model to look nice, then just, you know, grind them round. But other than that, I think we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to call that a day there for part 1A. I'm not going to do any more because the next part of the build, we're actually going to be attaching the transmission case to the engine block. And obviously here there's going to be seam sealing. And also I think this is going to be magnesium. Well, guys, that was the delivery guys with the latest Mustang from D'Agostini. So there we go. That's a small box as well, smaller than normal. So yeah, so basically we're going to be fitting this transmission to this main engine casing, and this little fan pulley here. And as I said, there's going to be seam sealing to do there, and I believe this is also magnesium. I'm not sure. I will check. So obviously it'd be sensible to glue all this together, screw it all together, seam seal it, get rid of the screw holes, whatever we're going to do, and spray that as one lump. Because if I start handling this and everything and start filling and sanding and everything, it doesn't make sense to have it as, you know, individual. Even if they are different colours, we'll mask one and spray the other. So that's what we're going to do there. So I'm not going to be attaching any of these parts in part 1A. We'll be attach those after we've built the engine, because they are going to be sticking out and just asking to be broken off. So you can see them here, that's sticking out. It may even be worth leaving them off until we get to fitting the exhaust, because then the exhaust will protect them. We've got this bracket going on the back here, that's going to get glued on to those little lumps there, those little raised areas there. So there's 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to have to be nicely cleaned up and everything. So we might even clean them up and mask them before we spray, because that's going to go on and hold our exhaust pipes in place. So yeah, lots and lots of work to do on this engine. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. But I mean, literally the engine and gearbox, it's going to be like this long. It's like half the car. You know, it's crazy. On that video, the guy mentions on the video I referred to in the, I can't remember the name of the channel now, something Gunnar, isn't it? They basically they say that once the engine gearbox is out, 3 people can lift the car up. It's incredible. It's incredible how light it is. It's probably lighter than a Fiat Cinquecento. Anyway, and they were 750 kilos, as was a Mark 1 Golf, believe it or not. And now a Golf is probably 2 tons or something. Anyway, I will see you all for part 2 next week, and look forward to entertaining you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you've enjoyed what you've seen, and if you like what you've seen, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't, then give us a thumbs down. And as I say, we'll be back next week with part 2, and in the meantime I've got to do lots of research and find out about colours and everything. I'm probably going to do the exhaust white anyway, because that was kind of a period thing, but I'm not sure if this here is like a fiberglass cooling panel or whatever, if part of it's a cooling panel. But I don't know why they've got this exclamation mark here, because the exclamation mark there is referring to having screws not done up so things can spin. I think that's what they're referring to here. I don't know why they've got one there. I really don't. Doesn't make sense, does it? So we shall see anyway. And also the build sequence: 1, 2, build the exhausts up, fit the cylinder heads, fit the exhausts. Yeah, I completely agree with their build sequence. Is there anything wrong with that at all? So maybe they're saying that you have to glue that to the head before you actually glue it to the engine. Maybe because it's sandwiched in by the transmission case here. Or even, no, they're showing up this raised lump there. Okay, we have a raised lump, we only have half of it. Obviously it's scalloped out to clear something. That's where the starter motor is going to go. Yeah, it's scalloped out to clear something. I'm not sure what, but it is. Anyway, I'll see you for part 2. I'm waffling now. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.